Le Mans 24 Hour, it's such a marquee event. You know, you look at the marquee events around the world, that's right at the top of the list. So, you know, for me, you know, I'd love to go there. GT naturally would be a nice way to go there for the first time. It's definitely something that I hope to get to at some point in my career, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. It's fantastic for Ford to come back. Obviously, you know, the whole goal is to try and win Le Mans 50th anniversary. And obviously huge credit to Ford for bringing it back and making it one of the coolest looking cars I've seen in a long time.
And Scott Dixon gets to do something that he hasn't done in a long time. He's going to be a rookie again.
Well, and there aren't too many things he hasn't done behind the wheel. I mean, I had to check his age because in his 16th year of IndyCar racing. How old do you think he is without looking?
Oh, you said without looking. I just turned to look. 36.
He's 35 years old. You know, with that kind of accomplishments, I think of him as he's got to be like, you know.
But I wanted to say 43.
40, 41, 42, 43. So he's just, what an addition to the team. Obviously, he wants to go, but I'm sure it was just as strong on the other side. You draft a guy like that we saw, you know, that drive he put in at the end of Daytona last year to bring them their victory. I mean, he just goes and goes and goes. Doesn't make mistakes, seen it all, and just cool as can be.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. Cool as can be. There are some drivers, and there have been drivers that were actually interviewed, you know, when these sit-downs were done and were asked about going to Le Mans and driving, you know, a lower-class car. And a lot of them were like, nah, not really interested in that. Scott Dixon, I mean, you heard him. I think GT would be a great way to go. Obviously, with a Ford factory program is a great way to go, too. But not too proud to say I don't need to win it overall. I want to go. I want to go for the experience. I want to go in a car that I've got a shot to win in, certainly. But, you know, is a guy that just, you know, they don't call him the Iceman for nothing. That's one of his nicknames. And I think back to the story of when he kind of first came onto the scene when he was a very young kid driving Formula Vs for his dad. He had to sit on blankets so he could actually see out of the Formula V so he could drive it. And you think where he's gone with the IndyCar championships and the 500 win, and you know, he's a racer. That's what he wants to do.
And it really started when he got linked up with Chip Ganassi.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Chip, I think there's just a huge confidence level both ways, where basically if Chip says, I want you here, he's going to be there. And then Chip also knows I can throw him in the car without any reservations that he can hold up his end of the deal.
And he does, and he has. And the rain now beginning to dissipate a little bit. Some of the lightning seems to have moved off. That's good news. It will take a while to get the racetrack back, but we'll be right back to more from the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Through the raindrops on the lens of our cameras, you can see the safety vehicles kind of taking cover underneath the WeatherTech bridge. They're preparing to clear the racetrack, but that's going to take a while. So let's take you back to some of the action from the very beginning of this race when the green flag fell. We'll rejoin Calvin Fish and Greg Kramer at the beginning of this year's running, the 64th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, when the weather was much better than it is right now.
Welcome back to Sebring, everybody. Well, we continue to run under the red flag, which means we're not running. Everything is parked. Serious weather has moved through, but the bigger issue has been lightning strikes, as you can see here from a look back. However, we are hoping to be going back to racing here within the next half hour to 45 minutes, but until then, we're going to take you back to the call that Calvin Fish and I had a bit earlier in this legendary 12-hour sports car race. Sit back, and we'll be back with you as soon as we can. To Sebring, we have some good news for you. It's not just cleanup crews on the track trying to get water off of the surface. We have crews and drivers in pit lane. Crews trying to get the cars ready to go. It's red flag, can't do any official work, just safety work and the like, and drivers are heading to the cars. We're going to step away one more time, let you see a little bit more of the action from a bit earlier in the race, but when we come back next time, we hope to be live and bringing you race cars on course. Welcome back to Sebring, everyone, and it is truly about to become again the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring that is about to unfold. There's been a lot of work on the track, getting the track cleaned out and ready to run. Cars are ready, and you know what, folks? It could have been worse. 1965, that was what the pit lane looked like during a monster red flag period. The storm moved through. And obviously they were able to get back and go racing, and American Jim Hall in the Chaparral 2A along with Hap Sharp brought that car home for a win. As you can see, the track surface itself, there's still a lot of standing water, Cal, in various spots, but at least the track surface, they're able to get a lot of this moved off.
Yeah, with the cars obviously parked in pit lane, allows the crews to really go to work. They've been digging some little trenches there, trying to get the water away from the racing surface. But 93 and 95, we saw 2 red flags, and you talked about that stat where we haven't seen any rain at Sebring since 1997, which I thought was ridiculous, but that is accurate. Saw guys like Jan Magnussen saying, I've never raced at Sebring in the rain before.
A tremendous amount of people without any of that type of experience at all. And then on for some of the cars, certainly in the prototype division, on that new tire. So there's a lot of unknowns here as we get set to go back out. And interestingly, the forecast from this point forward is this is supposed to all be easing out and getting lighter and lighter and eventually stopping. So there's
Mr. Barfield.
That's Mr. Barfield, our race director, who's out doing a track inspection.
And he's done this before, where he just takes out that Porsche and just does a few laps, see where the standing water is. Just really great information. And particularly around the curbing where it kind of sits, he'll be looking at that right now and also looking at how it's draining. And we expect the cars to be going out behind the pace car under caution, but how quickly we get back to green will certainly be the big question at this point.
And the interesting thing, they might just throw a yellow before the cars even head out. That would allow crews to get back to work, and that, Justin Bell, means we might get even more activity down in pit lane.
Yeah, it's bizarre, it's eerie. Look at me, I'm standing in the middle of pit lane exit at Sebring during the 12-hour race. Just very cool here. You got the Ford GT here. They obviously are learning everything they can. You got Audi here. They're running their Quattro. That must feel a little bit nicer. There's the Mazda, and I was just talking with the Corvette over there. Of course, the problem with these cars is now they're getting the engines running. There's so much humidity. You won't believe it, guys. We're just sweating down here because this is Florida. When the rain stops, the humidity pops through the roof. And, of course, they're throwing Rain-X and everything they can on the inside of these cars. So it's kind of crazy. Andrew?
I just wanted to update everybody on the 66 car, which of course we saw crash just before the torrential rain came down. That car is currently under the awning at Ganassi Racing. They were just about to start work on it, and then of course they went red, which meant it was what we call part firm, and they weren't allowed to touch it. They've had a very good look round it, and they reckon it really is just cosmetic. They were just about to take the nose off. They were stopped doing that by officials. So they haven't seen if there's any real damage around the radiator area, but they think it's going to be okay. And they reckon that if they start under yellow, it only take 2 or 3 yellow laps and they'll be back racing again. So they could still be in the show. So that's good news for Ford fans.
I think the real question is, we look at a replay here of Dirk Mueller, who just went straight on down in turn 1 and into the barriers. Is, you know, as Dave Pericek said earlier, you know, we're here to learn, so we want the rain. We want to experience this car in the rain. They're really looking at Le Mans as really the goal for this year, is to be prepped, ready with a fast car, been through all of the various, you know, curveballs that a race can throw at you by that time.
And as we saw the cars heading out on track, one of the elements, Cal, that just makes this kind of diabolical when you have the standing water in the puddles, is you see how close these cars run to the track surface, and you get into one of those deeper puddles and it catches the lips of these splitters. That's very upsetting to the car. Let's check back in with Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, I'm here with Steve from Honda Racing. Steve, big commitment from you in this series this year.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. You know, this whole weekend so far has been going pretty well for us. We got a 1-2 finish in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge with our Honda Civics, and then yesterday we got first and second qualifying positions here in the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. So we're pretty excited.
Because you've made quite a few changes to the motor for this year, haven't you?
Yeah, we updated to 3.5 liter spec, and I think that's really made a big change in the raceability of the engine. And we've done a lot of hard work on the engine calibrations as well to tune them to the needs of the circuits.
In the past, of course, we've seen you in prototypes with the Acura brand. Is that ever likely to happen again?
Never know. We're looking into it, I can tell you.
Now, one of the big things about Honda for all your years in racing, going right back to 1965 and Richie Ginther and all that, is that this is not just an exercise for marketing. It's very much training Honda engineers. Is that the case in Honda America as well?
Absolutely. This is racing is part of Honda's DNA, and we use it as a proving ground for not only technologies but our people's skills.
Well, that's great, and you're just going to keep your fingers crossed and see what that Shank car can do now.
Yep, we still got some hours left, so let's see.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Wow, what a start for the season for that company, getting their first ever overall win at Daytona. Same for Ligier, by the way. It was a nice one there. So, by the way, about 2¼ hours, essentially, we were stopped for the red flag count.
Yeah, and Steve Erickson, obviously the head of HPD there, he has 2 cars in this show, running 5th and 7th. And everything sort of got mixed up there with various pit strategies, when to come for wet tires, who stayed out, who didn't. But right now you've got the 2 Action Express cars leading the cars back to the green flag. Sheriff Christian's going to stay in the car, the 5 car over the 31. Jordan Taylor very much in the mix. Goosen's there, so it's DP's running 1 through 4, then the first P2 chassis with Oz Negri.
And they've opened the pits now for prototypes. And the number 81 in, and of course that is the Orica Nissan in the hands right now of Henrik Hedman. That's the Dragon Speed car. That car sees a lot of time in the European Le Mans Series, but has come over to run this weekend. Bit of an unknown here. Doesn't really have a lot of time in this series, so the BOP tables are a little bit muddled.
That's right. They ran the 2-day test, and they certainly made some adjustments from that point. But one thing we did see on that first fuel run was it went a lot longer on fuel than the other cars in this class.
All right, and let's check in with Andrew Marriott with Ali Pla as the field comes in for stops.
I've just got up with Ollie, the man I call the Flying French Carrot. He's a red-headed real racer here. 2 successive pole positions, that was fantastic. But now you've really got to buckle down and see what you can do, because the car's fast, we know that, but pit strategies didn't help you in those last few laps.
Yeah, of course, I think we had a fantastic car up until the rain. We know that with the rain coming, it would have been harder. I think the tires are working a little bit better with the GP car than on the P2 car. So we struggled a little bit. In a way, at the moment, the car also say that the car is really terrible to drive. So we will do our best, but hopefully it will dry up. But we know that if it's dry, the pace is really good. So let's see.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that the DP cars were quicker than you. Is that down to the weight, you think?
Yeah, it's the weight, and I think the tires are more designed for this car than our P2, so it's like that, we have to do with that.
When will you get back in the car now?
I think Oz will do maybe 1 stint again, or 2 stints, we have to see, and then I should be back in the car after.
And then you're going to have a big push?
Yeah, we will, for sure.
The Flying French Carrot, I call him.
By the way, if those of you, as you saw somebody walk by in the back of the picture, was that? Yes, that was Mr. Le Mans himself, a new Sebring Hall of Fame member, Tom Christensen, who has a corner named after him now at this track, turn 3.
Yeah, certainly a special moment for Tom, a 6-time winner here, 9-time Le Mans winner. And he's actually spending a few months with his family, living just a couple hours away down in Boca. He'll be here through Le Mans to get down and play a bit of golf with him later this month, so it should be a fun time. But he's there, obviously getting the accolade yesterday, but also an ambassador for Audi since his retirement from driving.
And we were just on board for a moment there with the leader in the GT Le Mans category. That is the 911 Porsche 911 of Nick Tandy, his teammate Earl Bamber, right behind him in the 912. Then Milner, Westbrook in the Ford 67, and Jan Magnussen in the number 3 Corvette as we hop on board with the pace car Corvette.
We were talking to Olivier Pla, who's obviously driving here for Mike Shank in the North American Endurance Championship, but he is also one of the Ford GT drivers in the World Endurance Championship, so he's going to be a very busy boy. He's also running the ELMS Championship with Krone, so lots going on in his racing world.
Well, Andrew Marriott must have noticed who walked by out of the corner of his eye, and he promptly chased him down. Andrew, how's TK doing?
Well, I think TK's doing pretty good. I told him he should go to that turn 3, which is now the Christian corner, but you probably get mobbed down there.
Yeah, no, I look forward now to see the field released. It's been good, very good racing so far.
So, must be an honour for you to have a corner named after you. I suspect they might do it at Le Mans one of these days. But this racetrack, you've never seen it like this, have you, with this much rain?
Actually, yes, but not during a race. But I remember not many years ago we had a night practice, completely washout, horrendously storm as well, which was even worse. But on the race, no, this is pretty tough, and the right decision to break it, and now they are hopefully ready to go green.
Are you totally relaxed, not racing? I mean, have you come to terms with that?
Yeah, of course I would like to have a go, but on the other hand, I'm very strict to my decision in my retirement, and very happy with this. Absolutely. But of course, I'm still a racer. I still like to feel how they feel, and to drive a few laps today in the Audi R8 from 2005 was a real thrill. And to be back here, it's really a privilege after so many years of racing for great teams, great co-drivers, and of course you cannot expect anything like that. You might not even dream, or at least you can only say that to your parents, that to have a corner named after you, that's something which any driver would like to, and of course I'm very happy for that.
Now, I heard on a radio interview John Hindhaugh tried to persuade you to make a comeback at the Daytona 24. I think you said you'd like to, but you're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of due to respect to being Grand Marshal at Daytona. I said no, I haven't raced there yet, and a lot of great people like it was very positive about that. But you know, I have respect for the series, and if I come back full time, that's not on my plan at all. I want to live life happily. I have decided to call it a day, but still, you know, with John Hindhaugh, I would never expect him to sit next to him and drive around a lap, which actually happened a couple of days ago here at Sebring. But that happened, and that turned out okay. So you never know.
You never. Now, the very important question now, the most important question of this interview. Are you going to beat Calvin at golf?
If I make it to the green, then it's sure. Every time on the green, I beat him. But the road there, I have to admit, he's pretty good. But if we can fiddle a little bit with his mind and imagination, I might get him one day.
There he is, the Great Dane himself.
All right, messing with his mind, huh?
Yeah.
I bet it goes both ways here, obviously, when you're out in the golf links, no question about it. Well, we're going to step away for just a moment, and we are looking forward to going back to actual green flag action here at Sebring when we come back for the Mobil 1 12 Hours. The field was about ready to go back to green here after 2¼ hours under red flag and numerous caution laps that may be on hold here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. As you see, the number 55 Mazda has had a bit of an off there. Cal nosed into the tire. Spencer Pigot behind the wheel of that car. So that, of course, might delay this start. That's an obvious area that you would have to get that car moved.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to go back to green with that car stuck in the fence like that. So a little bit more of a wait before we get back. But this will be nice. Everyone just getting a feel, be able to see where the standing water is, where they need to tiptoe around this racetrack, not make any mistakes. But obviously something went awry here. We didn't see the incident, so don't want to put any blame. But looks like Spencer just went straight on for some reason.
And as we continue then over what will be a little bit more of a caution period here, let's get back down, check in with Justin Bell.
Yeah, you know what? One of the big discussions in Marion's catering tent, where all the entire paddock was during that rain, was, of course, if anyone goes off, the track is drying on the asphalt side and concrete side, but you get on that green stuff and it is a swamp. Remember, the water table is very high here in Florida, so you only have to get a little bit of rain and it just sits on the surface. So, you know, this isn't the last we've seen of maybe even just a wheel going off, hitting a curb. The curbs are still wet, and it's going to drag you off into the barriers in a spectacular way. In that last segment, there was a whole load of cars came in for pits, guys, and Calvin, it was interesting. Obviously, a lot of drivers were on the edge of their cycle and their stint before we had the red flag. So, of course, they were the ones that only did a lap or two, and then got back in, got out of the car, and the relief drivers go. You could tell which ones they were. They were the ones that looked particularly nervous, and with sort of a sense of anticipation, while everyone else was relaxing during the red flag. So a lot of action in the pit lane, and the right order is now back in play. Andrew?
Well, I've got a young British driver here who's just about to do his first racing laps here in America. It's Josh Webster. Josh, 2 years ago, was the Porsche champion in the UK. Josh, you did a season in GP3 as well, and here you are in America. You must be so excited now.
Yeah, I am. I mean, it's been delayed a little bit today, and I was really raring to get going in the car earlier, but still, it's absolutely amazing to be here. Thanks so much to Franz Conrad for having me, and yeah, we had a bit of trouble this morning with the sister car, number 21, with an issue in warm-up, had a bit of a fire, so we're down to one car, so all attention on number 28 and see if we can get up from the back of the grid, and after this yellow, I'm hopefully going to be getting into the car, see how the wet conditions are, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, because you're co-driving with the famous Terry Borchula, who we've seen racing here for 20-odd years. Are you learning from Terry? He knows so much.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. Willing to offer all his experience and all the stuff that he's learned over the years, and willing just to hand it over to me, which is quite rare, but he's a really good guy. I've tried to learn as much as possible in the time that I've had here. I've only had a handful of laps, so it's going to be tough just to jump in the car and get on the pace, but for sure it's going to be the last sort of couple of hours in the race where we really start to push. So first 10 laps is going to be learning the car and learning what he's been telling me, and then hopefully the last sort of hour or so, if I get another chance when the sun goes down, it's going to be tricky, but I think it's going to be a really good end to the day when we get racing again.
And in Europe, you're going to be in a Lambo in the Blancpain series, but big news, Terry's also going to be racing for Conrad in Europe for the first time in his career. Are you going to be sharing with Terry in the Blancpain?
It's not totally confirmed, but I've been hearing rumours that he's going to be joining me in the car, and I couldn't be happier because he's just such a great guy, and like I said, he's willing to offer all his experience all the time. So I think we would work really well together. And I've heard a few other rumours about potential drivers that are in the Conrad cars this weekend joining me in Blancpain. The deal only came around a couple of weeks ago. I was at home thinking, okay, I haven't got to drive, and then suddenly I'm here in Sebring. So yeah, like I said, just really, really happy to be here. Whatever happens in the race, it's racing, like we saw from this morning, and I'm just going to try and enjoy it.
Great news. Super to have a young Brit making his way. This is a book to watch, I can tell you.
And we shall. And of course, Terry Borchler is a pretty special person in the paddock, no doubt about it. And with his experience now, more than willing to pay it forward to the young drivers coming up. Cal, while we're under this extended caution, we heard Justin talk about the fact that some of the drivers were near the end of their cycle. Obviously, with the big red flag, the clock continues to run, but they had to adjust, I would think, some of the drive time requirements. Any update on that?
Yeah, the minimum drive times for the PC and GTD classes, where you have the Pro-Am drivers, which is essentially guys who do not earn their living from racing. You've got to have at least one of those guys in your car, and two if you're driving a four-driver lineup. They had to do a minimum drive time of 3 hours. Because the race has been short and the clock got stopped, that's been reduced to 2 hours, 25 minutes. There's also another rule in place that any driver cannot do any more than 4 hours in a 6-hour period, or 8 hours total. So we're looking at Dane Cameron. He'd been in the 31 from the very beginning, but now Scott Pruitt has taken over the reins behind that car. So again, it's one of those things. I mean, when a guy's been out there in the tricky conditions, it's nice if you can keep him in. He's going to transition very quickly back to green flag running here and have a good feel for the racetrack in terms of the grip, rather than throwing someone fresh in there who hasn't seen the wet conditions today and you're right in the heat of the battle. So but obviously the strategy of drive time is very, very critical. We've seen race wins and race positions go astray. Certainly at Daytona last year with the 10 car, they had that problem with Jordan Taylor.
Don't say reins. Don't say taking the reins. We are anticipating going to green this time, and you'll notice the first car behind the pace car is not our overall race leader, the number 2 of Scott Sharp. It is Lucas Luer in the number 100 BMW. Here are the two Mazdas that have made, one of them made their way back to the pits. The first car there, the 55, and the number 70, of course, had that issue with Kiko Ihara behind the wheel and is down just a little bit, so they're going to be trying to fight their way up here. The number 70 is Joel Miller behind the wheel of that car, but we are looking forward to going green, and I think that is the 66 that is making its way back out on track. Good news for that program.
Yeah, and good news that they didn't go straight back to green, because that just bought them a little bit more time. Obviously, you're running a lot quicker laps under green and going to go down more laps, but certainly not the start they were looking for the 66 car. What is Chip Ganassi saying about things, Andrew?
Chip, you got that 66 on pretty quick.
Back at it, Andrew. You know, like it really wasn't that much damage. We just obviously couldn't work on it during the red there.
I mean, you were very close to having the front off it, weren't you? And then the red came out, so almost you could have beaten the whole thing.
Almost, but almost doesn't count in this sport.
So you've just announced your full lineup for Le Mans. You're happy with those new drivers you've got lined up there, including, of course, Billy Johnson.
Obviously, if you could add Scott Dixon and Sebastian Bourdais to your team, you're doing good in any form of motor racing. So we're pretty happy about that. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. You know, we obviously have some other work to do before we get there.
You're still learning this car, of course.
Yes, I mean, you know, I think we were ready for some, you know, rain today. I don't know if we were ready for the downpour that we had here or whatever, but, you know, that's what we love about the sport. We're challenged by it, and, you know, the most challenging sports attract the most challenging teams. That's why we're here.
Well, thanks very much. We're about to go back to green.
Indeed we are, Andrew. The field now is the pace car going to make its way down into the pit lane. The beautiful Chevy Corvette and the BMW going to lead the field as they come up to green. Scott Sharp's going to want to get by in a hurry, and does. Coming with him is Ricky Taylor. Can Ricky clear the BMW when they get down into turn one? He's got his nose in there. Cal, he's through. And it looked as though Felipe Albuquerque was going to give it a go. Couldn't quite get it done into one.
Scott Sharp, you can Scott Pruitt, you can see they're in the mix as well in the number 31. And this is where the spotters come in really handy, Greg, in terms of you can't really see in the side view mirrors where the other cars are coming down the inside. So there had been radio communication to those guys in terms of where the faster prototype machines are. Certainly Lucas Luhr led the field back to green. He was not the overall leader. It's just the class sometimes can lead you back to green under this situation.
And keep in mind, folks, that number 68 Scuderia Corsa Ferrari in the hands of Bertolini right now, down a few laps. And so that car is going to want to do everything it can to at least stay near the front and hopefully start to get some laps back. Nice thing about these long endurance races, it's not all lost when you're down 3-4 laps. Things can change in a hurry.
They really can. You just got to keep grinding out those laps and seeing if the race will come back to you. But this will be interesting to see how Scott Sharp can handle the pressure from Ricky Taylor, who's now behind the wheel of the number 10. And we spoke to Olivier Pla, and he just said the Daytona prototype seems to come to life. It's an identical tire that the P2 machines run to the Daytona prototypes from Continental. And just with that heavier machine, the Daytona prototype, it just works the tire a little bit more. Oh, 85 has got it around. That's Goikberg behind the wheel right now.
It's the car that won at Daytona. Looks like just a quick spin. He can get it turned around and not nose. Well, he was going to be very careful there, not nose into the barriers. But Justin was talking about it, just how wet that is off track. And even, you know, depending upon what kind of tires they're running, you just start spinning those tires up. It could be a bit tough. And Plot said that they just, you know, I mean, they needed to hang on to the field here. See what's going to happen with Goikberg.
He got a little bit of help. I think he didn't roll through the middle of the corner quite as quickly, and I think it was the other PC car may have got into him and just turned him.
Yeah, indeed, that may have been the 38 of Kyle Marcelli, who was behind the wheel of that car. Kyle, a very quick driver, was looking to make some time up. It looks like Goikberg is not able to get that car. It looks like he may have stalled it, Cal.
Yeah, he's just trying to get it pointed in the right direction. May have stalled it out. I can't tell from this camera angle if he's on the concrete or if he's actually in the grass right now. But this is impressive from Scott Sharp. He's really taken off a little bit here from Ricky Taylor, but you can see the pace of those GTLM machines because Lucas Luhr is not losing anything to Ricky Taylor. And Albuquerque doing a fine job, as you would expect, in the number 5 machine.
The number 97 BMW in GT Daytona having a bit of a moment. And hopefully was able to keep going. And is that the number 50 Highway to Help machine? A quick snap spin as well out of that car.
It's outdoors.
Yeah, I wonder if they're, well, they may have gotten together, perhaps.
It's M&M, Michael Marcel behind the wheel of the Turner machine. Let's take another look at this. Oh yeah, they got together as probably right at that little clipping point down towards the brake zone. So it looks like he's through there. It's going to be
he's got a cut left front tire, doesn't he?
I think he may get clipped right there. Yeah, Chrome Racing. Audi got into the back of him. Dorsey was going slowly, probably trying to get to pit lane and just got nailed.
And we have a full course caution that has been brought out. Not sure yet if the 85 of Goikberg was able to continue, but we certainly have Marcel sitting here. And I have to see if Dorsey was able to make his move into the pit lane. That was unfortunate development there. So back to a very early caution here. Let's see if we can look at a few more angles on it and see a bit more what may have happened. There's the initial.
So there's probably some contact there that turned M&M around. I think we may have a cut-down tire on Dorsey Schrader's car, the prototype. He's now going to try and get across to pit lane. It's Nick Johnson behind the wheel of the bright green Krone Racing Flying Lizard entry there that turns him.
And watch it from this angle, because one of the BMWs was very close to getting caught up in that.
Nick really had nowhere to go.
Yeah. And the 81 prototype of Nicolas Lapierre also just barely skated through, as now Goikberg has been able to continue. Earlier we saw the 55 Mazda into the tires at the exit of turn number 13. Andrew, what's the update?
Well, it really is treacherous out there, isn't it? But I'm pleased to tell you, no problem with the 55 car at all. It must have just skimmed the wall, because it is okay, I'm being told by the team. So that continues.
That's good news indeed. Obviously, Spencer Pigot, a driver with a tremendous future. All he's done in the Mazda ladder system is win championships back to back to back to back, almost, essentially. And great to see that car back out, and he'll be able to go after it. So as we continue under a caution here on this rather treacherous track, we're going to take a quick break as well. After a long red flag period, we had a restart. A couple of quick incidents prompted another caution, but we are ready to go back to green flag once again here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Leading the field up to the line, Scott Sharp in the Tequila Patrón ESM Ligier Honda, and he takes the green over Ricky Taylor in the Konica Minolta number 10 Corvette DP, and the number 5, that is of Felipe Albuquerque, and a problem for the number 20 prototype challenge machine of Don Yount coming to the green.
Yeah, just coming through turn 17, must have looped it around there. Hopefully he can get through there nice and clean. Great restart here by Scott Sharp, as that team, ESM Patrón, going for the clean sweep of the Florida Enduros, coming off that brilliant victory at Daytona.
Boy, and on that restart, it was a big one for Felipe Albuquerque, as he took that number 5 Mustang sampling car finally around Lucas Luhr, who he had been bottled up behind and hadn't been able to pass after that initial restart. We're right on board now with the 911 of Nick Tandy. That's the Allegra Motorsports Riley that has gone by, but Tandy finds himself a number of cars behind class leader Lucas Luhr right now. It's going to be interesting to see if they can work their way up and get there. The problem is I think that BMW and these GT Le Mans cars right now not too far off the prototype pace.
It really isn't. I mean, just tremendous grip through the low-speed corners. You can see that where the downforce and horsepower really doesn't come into play. So Tandy is a man on a mission right now. We saw that impressive performance at Petit Le Mans last year, where he and his team. Oh, another car off. Cars flying off everywhere there down into turn 10.
Yeah, it's the number 38 again, Kyle Marcelli, who was involved in a little tink on Mr. Goikberg right about that part of the track, and this time Kyle just went straight off into the runoff at turn 10, Cunningham Corner.
Second of the BMWs just going through the screenshot right there. The number 25 that started on the pole but had a couple of penalties. One for doing a tire change under a closed pit condition, then a pit lane speed violation when they left the pit box, so that cost them a lap.
And after the stops, in terms of drivers and cars, Luhr in the 100 BMW, Tandy and Christensen in the Porsches, Magnussen in the number 3 Corvette, Fassler in the number 4, Dixon now in the 67 Ford, Davide Rigan in the 62 Risi Ferrari, 25 Werner in the BMW, 68 Bertolini, and 66 Mr. Bourdais at this point. Let's go back, Cal, and see if we can, see what happened on the restart here with the number 20.
He just came in there with way too much speed. He hit that tire pretty hard.
Sure did.
Had to have damaged that left rear corner, you would think. Yeah, it's definitely a skew there, so big damage to that left rear corner.
Now watch the red car coming in here.
There's a couple of cars off. There's one already up, another PC already off in a little bit further into the corner, and this is Marcelli, who used the escape route then across the grass.
Boy, I wonder if that 52 wasn't Robert Alon, who had been leading in the prototype challenge, a dark colored car, and that is definitely the scheme on that car right now. Marcelli just trying to work his way back up and through the field at this point. And all right, things settling just a little bit. Let's get down to Andrew Marriott in pit lane with our Mazda mid-race report.
Yeah, the Mazda mid-race report. Who better to do it than John Doonan? What's your report so far?
Well, Andrew, my first report is survival of the fittest today. Very tough conditions for the guys, but we've dodged quite a few upsets there in the wet, but the guys are doing a great job. We're very encouraged by our pace. We did several really strong laps this week, running second during night practice, fourth quick, and qualified fifth. So we got a lot of positives going forward out of this race, but very difficult. You know, all our Mazda road cars are engineered to drive in no matter what conditions, so we could use those today. But it's really good to be here at Sebring, hoping to put our name up on the front stands here someday soon.
Yeah, there's a few Japanese manufacturers' names up here behind me. Mazda isn't on it yet, but it is at one famous place, and no other Japanese manufacturers there. We know, of course, it's Le Mans. When are you going back?
Well, certainly it would be our goal to go back there. We have a lot of heritage and history there. 2017 regulations allow us to take a peek at that. We're working real hard. We've got partners like Castrol and ModSpace. We'd love to take them there. We'll see what things come to be here in the next several months, but that would certainly be the plan. And before I sign off, I'll give a shout out to my son, Alex, who's in the high school play this evening. And I don't think that one's going to get called off due to rain.
Yeah, just one last question as the cars thunder by us and we're drowned out. So I'm not sure if John can hear me, but John, the ladder to Indy, the steps to Indy are still working very well for you.
Yeah, the Mazda Road to 24 and the Mazda Road to Indy, it's a really special part of our strategy. We've given drivers the opportunity to grow their career in Mazda or Mazda-powered vehicles. We've got Spencer Piggott with us, who'll be in the 100th running of the Indy 500. You've got Joel, Tom, Jonathan. They've all been through this program, and giving these young drivers a chance to go from grassroots racing all the way to the top. It's really special for all of us personally, and the Mazda brand certainly cares about the industry.
John, thanks so much for your time. Better get back on what I call the Pratt perch.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, thanks both. And there is the number 38, Kyle Marcelli. He's just having a rough go here, off again. And this time, Cal, it looks like he just stalled it, nosed into those barriers. And of course, we had a pass for the lead as well. But first of all, let's see what happened here with that. It just didn't turn at all.
Yeah, he's just really struggling here with the grip on that race car right now. Just got the tires locked up there straight on, and when you hit the grass, you got zero turning ability. As you can see, the straight lines into the fence. Didn't look like a big bump. As you can see, he's off and away again. Maybe just minor damage there to the front splitter.
That's good news to see that car able to continue, of course. And Andrew was talking about, by the way, going back to the interview with John Doonan about Mazda at Le Mans. And, you know, John Doonan and the Mazda people say, we continue to talk about Mazda being the only Japanese manufacturer to win at Le Mans. We're going to do it until somebody steps up. So we're going to milk that one, and absolutely they should here. Bit of a battle on our hands right here. I think that's the 25 of Dirk Werner on Regal.
Yeah, this is a great battle. It's a battle for 7th position in the GTLM class, which has been fierce all day long, but the battle up front is looking great too. We saw that Albuquerque got around Scott Sharp, and then the two Scots, Sharp and Pruitt, are going at it pretty heavily for that second spot. Ricky Taylor demoted to the 4th position with the Konica Minolta team. And you can see there now it's an Action Express 1-2 as Pruitt has demoted Scott Sharp down to the 3rd spot.
And just watching a couple of times Ricky Taylor in that Konica Minolta, it just doesn't look that happy right now.
No, I mean, you know, Jordan and Rubens Barrichello have done the opening stints here, so Ricky may just be playing himself in a little bit, but maybe they've got the car set up a little bit stiffer, so it's maybe not ideally suited to these wet and damp conditions. So maybe they're hoping that we do see this rain pass through. You really want a good car for the last couple hours, but you got to guess what the weather is going to be like, obviously.
Absolutely, and you mentioned earlier, Cal, that Nick Tandy was a man on the move with a mission. Well, he now has but one car between himself and Lucas Luhr. He has closed that margin up big time.
Yeah, he has, and there's another Porsche that's really quick right now. That's the Mad Michael, as we call Michael Christensen. He's up to 3rd spot in the 912 Porsche, and his fast lap the last time through was a 2:15.8 compared to the 2 leaders running 2:16.4. So Christensen is the quickest GTLM car on the racetrack right now.
Mad Michael. That's a little tame, though. It doesn't quite compare to the Flying French Carrot. We got to get Andrew to be giving us all these nicknames right now.
Another Dane with the Christensen name.
Exactly.
I tease with them. I say, do you get on the phone and when you want a restaurant reservation, say Christensen, table for 4, and what do they say?
Exactly. I'll give him the best seat. Albuquerque, boy, is he just putting on a drive right now, Callan. there is one of the tricky parts here. The track drawing on the line, off the line, you can still see the darker color where the track is damp. And here is how the pass for the overall lead happened, Cal.
Yeah, Albuquerque was just a man on a mission. He really had a lot of pace in that number 5 car. Just gets the power down early off of turn 13 and clears and squeaks by Scott Sharp as they get in that really fast section here. Super quick through there. But I tell you what's impressive, Scott Pruitt, he will admit he does not really enjoy racing in the rain. But right now he is showing tremendous pace in the second of the Action Express cars. And those cars seem to be hooked up. We saw them run on 1-2 in the dry conditions. In the rain, they've got pace as well. Got the extra bonus points in the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Championship at hour 4 when those points were awarded. So they're ticking all the boxes so far today.
And I wonder if right now, if Scott Pruitt, you know, he may not like driving in the rain, but with that very defined, dryish line out there right now, you need precision driving to be quick. That he does incredibly well.
He really does, and his last lap was over a second quicker than Albuquerque, so the car is working. Scott is certainly in the zone right now, has found the rhythm of the racetrack. And I tell you what, Dane Cameron really impressed with Scott Pruitt when he started testing with him here last month.
Great story here. This is your leader now in the GT Daytona category. It's the number 51 Spirit of Race Hublot Ferrari. And right now in the hands of Matteo Cressoni, Italian driver, doing a great job at the front of a pretty stout field. Corey Lewis in the number 16 Change Racing. Monster Energy Huracan sits second in the 48. Paul Miller Racing entry, Universal Industrial Sales, and Castrol of Madison Snow third. That is your top 3 in GT Daytona. Albuquerque leads overall, Lucas Luhr in GT Le Mans, and Lyon in the number 88 in Prototype Challenge. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. Furious battle unfolding right now for third in the prototype category between the two Ligier Hondas, and it is currently being held by Scott Sharp, but coming on strong, the number 60 of Oz Negri in the Tire Kingdom car, although he gets held up just a little bit as they work through some traffic. And I'll tell you, that Allegra entry of Murad right now, the number 24, that green car with the InSync on the front, that car has been having a pretty stout run, Cal.
Very stout. I mean, they are in the 6th position, legit, showing a lot of speed. This young Canadian guy kind of slipped through the net a little bit in terms of continuity with his racing career, but everyone who's dealt with him in terms of teams that have run this young man have said great things about him. Ran up in Canada last year in the GT3 Cup Championship, finishing second. I think he was the 2009 Formula BMW champion. So he's shown a lot of talent over the years. In his first Daytona prototype experience, look what he's doing.
Absolutely, showing the nose to Scott Sharp, looking to get underneath the team, and that one at Daytona didn't quite get it done there. That is some impressive stuff. But we're going to pop down to pit lane as we watch the number 100 of Lucas Luhr has come in and done a stop. But Justin Bell, I believe you've got a very special guest.
I do. We mentioned during the show that, of course, Sebring is a great opportunity for manufacturers and sponsors to showcase their latest products, but it's also a very special place for ExxonMobil. I'm here with Andy Moran, who is the US Motorsports Technology Advisor. And Andy, standing down here, Sebring 12 Hours and Mobil One, they're like oranges in Florida. So you just renewed your partnership.
Absolutely. And this is the 21st year of being the Mobil One 12 Hours Sebring. And as you mentioned, we just extended our contract for a couple more years. So for a couple more years, it will definitely be the Mobil One 12 Hours of Sebring. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us. We love being in motorsports. It's a great way for us to learn and test products and look at new things, new technology, and bring innovation to the racetrack where we can definitely test them. And you're not going to find a more severe environment in racing. And then what we do is we'll take the technology, what we learned, and then take that and put it to the next generation Mobil One products for the consumers put in their cars as well.
And of course, another huge partnership is this one right behind here. That is 20 years old. You have been supporting Porsche as a technology partner and certainly been responsible together for a lot of each other's success.
Absolutely. We have been involved for 20 years. It's been a great relationship. And motorsports really tie that together. And you look at Porsche's success throughout the years, and it's no coincidence that we make a great relationship together. And again, you have drivers like Nick Tandy and Earl Bamber, and they're constantly out there racing, putting the equipment to the limits. Again, it's just a real great way for us to test our products and to really push it to the limits, because if they're pushing the equipment, that also helps us learn about the lubricants that we have in their cars and find out what really makes them perform well, and bringing not only power and fuel economy to these cars, but also the protection and cleanliness to those cars.
Well, as you can tell, he knows a lot, but more importantly, he is a motorsport fan, and as you said, you have the dream gig at Mobil 1. Well done. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, and a big thanks to Mobil 1 for such a great partnership and support of this legendary event for over 2 decades now. And Cal's watching this great racing unfolding here as we hop on board right now with Mark Goosens, the number 90 Visit Florida Corvette DP. Well, you can see just the grime on that windshield. You're not getting a lot of moisture falling from the sky. There is some being splashed up, but most of these guys certainly have to, little touch there maybe, have to have started this on wet tires, and that dry line now, that's got to be chewing up those tires a bit.
Yeah, it'll eat into them pretty quick, but oh, look at that. It was a very late move there by Oz Negri. I think Sharp is certainly not happy with the balance of the car right now and is making it relatively easy for these guys to go on through, and just realizing the big picture is be around at hour 12 and not fighting too hard, and ended up getting a clip and off into the wet tires. Wet grass and tires at this stage of the game. So you can see there, look how much ground he's losing through those high-speed sweepers there, Greg.
And that's normally a part of the track where that car excels with the downforce there. So yeah, something does seem to be just a bit off for that car. We'll see now what Negri can do as he's gone around, but boy, it's impressive what Daniel Morad has done here. He's just checked out in third, but look who's closing a bit here in this battle for the lead. Pruitt, well, I'll tell you, he is still able to throw down some brilliant laps and is making a bit of a move. Now look at this, Morad now over hunting for a little water to cool those tires.
He's doing an amazing job. Look how he's cleared those cars and taken off and chasing down the leaders. He is really quick right now. Daniel Morad just ran a 2:08.5 compared to Albuquerque's 9.2 and Pruitt's 10 flat. Morad is the fastest guy on the racetrack right now, and we said, looked like Sharpie was struggling a bit. He's hit pit lane.
Is going to head in, obviously there, I would think, while he's in, they're going to do an opportunity for a tire change. Don't know if they would do a driver's change at this stage. Well, we're about to find out. Car hits the marks.
Got to look for the crossover point. They're running like 152s, 53s, the dry pace. The fastest lap we're seeing in these conditions right now was Morad at a 2:08, so they're about 15 seconds off. I would think about 10 seconds or so would be the crossover point where you may be better on slicks, but again, running offline, passing traffic, it's still very, very wet out there.
And we do have a driver change. I believe that is going to be Pippo Durrani who climbed on board that machine. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, they will have fresh tires, and bring up a good point to keep an eye on here. With everything that's been developing, by the way, in Prototype Challenge, Colin Brown has taken the number 54 Flexbox Composite Resources car back up into the lead in that class. Crisoni still hanging on in the Spirit of Race 51 Ferrari and GT Daytona in the lead, and Tandy leading in GT Le Mans.
Yeah, and the 100 car that was leading when Lucas Liu has made a pit stop and driver change there, so see how that one shakes out. JB?
About the 10, maybe dropping down on pace a little bit. What is happening? I just saw Wayne Taylor, he called me over, he wanted to explain himself. He said the rain tires with that drying groove are just falling apart. It's nothing to do with the tire itself, it's just the conditions they're going so fast for what is effectively a pretty much drying line on the, and there's only one thing they can do. They can't go onto slicks yet because it's wet offline and you can't overtake, and you've got to be overtaking out there, and then of course you can't go off, but at the same time, at some point, you're going to have to make the change, so you've got to make it last as long as you can. So keep an eye, Cal, on, I reckon you're going to see more and more of the prototypes taking a nosedive with their lap times over the next 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, and when those wet tires start to go off, it is crazy. It's like driving on oil. I mean, they literally have no grip. And again, it's got to be managed. We were impressed by Sharpie's pace there when we went back to green and holding the lead for a few laps, but maybe you're just really overloading them on the dry parts of the race circuit. You got to look for the water, cool them off when you can, and just realize how much longer do I have in this stint. You don't want to make an early pit stop for tires. You want to try and really exhaust all the fuel in the car ideally.
By the way, you were talking about Murad's lap times in that 24 Allegra entry. He just turned a 2:07.6.
And again, we're looking for that crossover mark where it would be faster on slicks. And someone will do it, and then all of the other teams just eyeball that timing tree to see what sort of lap times they can do. If they get close to it, then they bring their boys in as well.
Kind of the penguin get nudged into the shark-infested waters. And if it works, then they'll all jump in, obviously. As we climb on board the number 81 with Nicolas Lapierre, running in the 9th spot overall right now.
is one of the Toyota factory drivers. He was with Toyota a couple of years ago. And just sensational behind the wheel of one of these sports cars. Won here with Orica a few years ago when they beat the factory teams, Greg, overall.
Yeah, the Peugeot. That was a remarkable achievement, and that car just ran like clockwork, and a lot of that's down to the drivers executing. And he's a good one to have behind the wheel in these types of conditions.
Yeah, Nick Manassian, and Henrik Hedman, of course, is the gentleman driver in that car. He brings a lot of the funding to that program for Elton Julian. They're going to be running the full ELMS program, which is a championship based in Europe. Similar cars, though. Yeah. And Elton Julian, who runs Dragon Speed, just said this is a great tune-up for Henrik Hedman as he tackles the ELMS championship. You do 12 hours here, it really gets you in good shape for the season ahead.
You notice the graphic package on that car, and Henrik, Swedish, and for a long time would run cars that were painted in the Swedish flag, but he became a naturalized U.S. citizen and said, I want to do something distinctly American, and then he thought about it. Who is the craziest, bravest American he could think of, and he came up with Evel Knievel. And that's the scheme.
I think it's a cool scheme. He had it on his GT car last year when he's campaigning Mercedes, and looks good on this car as well. And that's a great team. Some really good personnel there with Elton Julian's led group.
Yeah, ooh, look at that big loose moment there for Ricky Taylor. Yeah, that car, I was watching a couple laps ago through turn 17, and that car was just getting crossed up an awful lot. We're going to go back now and take a look at GT Daytona, where we've had a change. It is the number 16 change racing machine of Corey Lewis has picked up the lead in that category. There's the car with that distinctive Monster Energy. He's a Monster Energy athlete. Color scheme with Matteo Crisoni in the spirit of Ferrari car right behind him.
Well, obviously after Daytona, there was a little bit of a controversy brewing with the pace of the Lamborghinis at the 24-hour race at Daytona. Essentially what happened, they were found that they were really kind of, we'll call it sandbagging. I mean, when they showed up for the balance of performance testing, they had a restrictor on the car, which they knew was not quite as good as the one they were going to run at the race weekend. They weren't cheating. There was nothing they were doing that wasn't by the technical regulations, but there's a rule in place that says you cannot manipulate the balance of performance that the series is trying to lay out. So they're looking at all of the testing. Lamborghini came back. The restrictor was going to give them a lot more horsepower, and we certainly saw that in spades at the Daytona 24-hour race. After the race, there was a penalty that went down on all of the Lamborghini cars in the 24-hour race, 5 minutes added to their race time. So that was quite significant and really a statement from IMSA in terms of the teams and manufacturers really working well with the series in terms of creating a fair playing field.
Yeah, loss of manufacturer points, loss of points for drivers as well. I mean, they definitely made that statement. And we are just past the halfway point here in this 12-hour legendary sports car classic, the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. As Corey Lewis, he had a remarkable year last year. Corey ran in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship, and not only did he win the North American Series, there are 3 different series that run globally in the Super Trofeo platform, he won the North American Pro-Am title, and then promptly went on right here at Sebring and won the World Finals title. So he's had a lot of laps in a Huracan around this track, and maybe not a surprise then to see him out front and leading, having a very strong run. Overall, though, it continues to be the Action Express duo, but here are your 4 class leaders. Back at Sebring, the number 911 911 Porsche finds itself in the lead in the hands of Nick Tandy and has opened up a little bit of a margin, some 5 seconds or so, back to his teammate in the 912 car of Michael Christensen. We are back at it in full chat mode here, but you'll notice, look at the windscreen on that car, folks. A little bit of moisture being reported at certain points around the track. Cal, we were talking about when were people going to think about going to slicks. Well, Pippo Durrani delivered a huge message here, but now we're seeing moisture.
Yeah, it's one of those days for the teams. Durrani switched to slicks. Suddenly he's running 2-minute flat laps compared to everyone else on wet weather tires at 208, 209. So certainly the slicks are quicker, but if there's rain imminent again, they've got to play into that. But right now the Porsche's looking really handy with Tandy at the wheel of the 911. A 5-second lead over his teammate Christensen, some 20 seconds over the Corvettes of Magnussen and Fessler.
Oh, well, it's starting to rain here. Yeah, handy with Tandy, very good. Yeah, the rain's coming down here. It's not really heavy at the moment, but I suspect everyone's going to tear up their tyre strategies again and get these slicks back behind the wall, because I just feel it's going to be another downpour.
Down here at the 10 pit, they came in, you know, I reported they're having a real problem with those wets having fallen apart. They've just put slicks on. This rain cloud, as Andrew said, is here. They just did a tear off on the front. You can see it. Look at that, sliding sideways up on the pit lane. Speed limiter, boom, boom, as he goes out. But this rain, we look up through the back. I'm just going to point you the camera around the back there. That is bright sky, the other side of the track. So I think they still made the right move. If they can get them up to temperature enough, Calvin, you know, on these opening couple of laps before the rain gets it too wet. What do you think?
Well, I think, JB, I mean, I think Durrani really made the statement. I think everyone saw that on the timing and scoring screens, that Durrani suddenly was running 6, 7, 8 seconds a lap faster than the rest of the DP field. So I think they should be able to generate the tire temp. Obviously, the DP car's a little bit heavier. That puts a lot more load, so it should be no problem for Ricky Taylor when he gets back out there.
The interesting thing, though, is we were talking about that line that had developed on the track, and now that line looking decidedly modeled, if you will. And yeah, we're seeing again, it's definitely dampening up out there, right in front of Michael Christensen. That is the number 8. That is the Starworks car in the hands of Renger van de Zande, a very, very fast and talented driver.
Oh, that Dutchman is unbelievable. So much talent. Ran a couple of years in the DTM Championship, the Touring Car Championship, predominantly in Germany, but globally as well. And since he's been on the scene here, he is one of the quickest guys in this prototype challenge class, and that's saying something because there's some really talented drivers out there.
On board now, the number 3 Corvette in the hands of Jan Magnussen, currently running in the 3rd spot in GT Le Mans. That moisture is just fairly consistent, Cal. You can see it. We had a shot of the radar, and it looks like there's this little wispy bit coming, and then behind it there looks like another chunk of potential some rain. Not all that lightning that we were seeing, but certainly some potential rain.
Yeah, look, if we look at Durrani, who's the fastest man on the racetrack, he's dropped off a couple of seconds, but still way, way quicker than everyone else who's out there on the wet weather tires. So slicks is just seems to be the way to go. But as JB mentioned, it's getting that temperature in them. You need to load the car, and if the temperature is not in the tire, if the racetrack is not giving you the grip, that is kind of a chicken and egg situation. You need to load the car more, but you can't because the grip isn't there. You got to get through that threshold with the tires really operating correctly at the right temperatures.
And just watching, a great job by Robert Alon in that number 52 prototype challenge entry, the personalized security consultant's car. He had a tremendous amount of track awareness, was watching. He was in a scrum of cars with GT Le Mans prototype cars, and he was just looking in his mirrors, let them all go through. When he found his gap, cut in behind him. And I don't think he's been racing cars of any kind for much more than 4 years, but he is one of those guys that you call a natural. And boy, they are thrilled to have him on board that car. He's been absolutely superb in the Prototype Lights Championship Series where he's run and shown that he absolutely belongs. There's the number 62 of Davide Rigon in the Risi Competizione car, a solid top 5.
Yeah, you were just talking about that security company that Alon's father owns, and they look after a lot of shopping centres. But I found out that Alon's father used to be in the Israeli Secret Service, and the famous Mossad, quite famed Secret Service organisation in Israel. So he obviously learned a lot of lessons there. I suspect his son's a very tough cookie as well.
Well, he certainly knows security. No question about that.
But Bobby Auger really likes this young man. I mean, a lot of podiums in IMSA lights, and he just said, I've got a really stout driver lineup with my pairing of Tom Kimber-Smith and along for the season. He said, we can really do something in the championship.
And Fabio-esque hair when he takes the helmet off in victory circle, too. So very photogenic, no question about it. And we have a look at the number 67. That is the Ford GT in the hands of Scott Dixon, who, if you weren't with us a little while ago, we ran a little bit of a feature, a very exciting announcement recently made for Scott Dixon and a few other drivers. Scott's going to go run that car at Le Mans.
He is. He and Sebastien Bourdais. I think everyone knew that Seb was going to be in the the 66 machine along with Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller. But Scott Dixon, what an addition. 14 years with Ganassi Racing. He wanted to go to Le Mans, and there's the opportunity for him. They got a bit of a problem with the test day. That's the same day as the Detroit IndyCar weekend, so he won't be over there for the test. But being a platinum driver, they'll let him do his laps on the race weekend. There's a lot of certain criteria you have to meet typically, but that's really for rookies. I mean, Scott Dixon really isn't in that class, but he's pumped up. It's going to be a big learning curve for him, even with his experience going to Le Mans for the first time. There's a bit of an eye-opener, but I know the whole camp is very excited about having him and Seb Bourdais. And also, the other announcement was the completion of the WEC lineup for Ganassi over in Europe that starts their campaign at Silverstone next month. Is that Harry Tinknell, the Brit, and US driver Billy Johnson. What an opportunity
story
for Billy Johnson, is going to be making his debut in European competition.
Yep, starts in Silverstone, then he gets to go to Spa, and he said, I've never raced in Europe, so talk about a bucket list tick off right there for him. That is absolutely fabulous. As we are on, that's the number 38. Kyle Marcelli seems to have gotten that car calmed down just a little bit and is now able to be throwing down some laps, and he is trying to chase Robert Alon for second in Prototype Challenge. Then behind him, this great battle between the number 4 of Marcel Fassler and the 62 of David Rigon. And we are going to take a quick pause here. Up front, Albuquerque leads overall, Tandy in GT Le Mans, and Corey Lewis in GTD.